Well, I'd like to welcome today Dennis Walsh, and Dennis is currently on the Saddleback Valley Unified School District Board. So he is an incumbent candidate, and we'd like to welcome him. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on.
Great to have you here. First, let's talk about your background. This is your first time on our program, so
Yes.
Tell the folks about yourself. How did you come by getting on the board in the first place? What made you want to do that, and why do you want to keep on the board?
Well, I got on the board because I had been very involved with the schools and the school district. And I had gone to board meetings for 10 years or so. And I always felt that the school board members that we had did a very good job. But there was two people who were going to retire, so there were two open spots. And when that happens, all kinds of people will sign up.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure that qualified candidates applied. And so I thought about it, and I had some people ask me if it was something I wanted to do. So I felt that there was some support, and it was something I wanted to do. And so I signed up, and I got on the board. So.
Now, do you have a background in education, or do you have a child that goes in the district?
Well, I do have a background in
did?
education in that I went to school for a very long time. We brought 3 kids into our home and ended up adopting them. And so they started at Santiago one Thursday morning, with 2 of the boys moving in Wednesday night. And it seemed like I immediately became a stay-at-home dad.
Oh, okay. All right.
And because of that, you know, stay-at-home dads, stay-at-home are never home.
Right.
But I volunteered in the classrooms, and I got involved with the schools, and got involved with the PTA, and learned about why we're having the problems that we're having. And it wasn't so much the school or the local school board; it was the funding that we get.
Right.
Or the lack of funding that we get. So I got involved because I thought it was important, and I thought it was important that other people knew what was going on. So I got involved in the advocacy group and tried to spread that information out there, because most people don't pay attention. They don't know how we're funded or what's going on in the schools, and especially if you have elementary school kids, because you're just busy trying to get your kids through school.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things that has changed over the years is the inclusion of special needs kids in the classroom, which is on itself a good thing. However, a lot of times there's not a lot of support for them, and what I mean by that is there are certain kids who maybe act out, you know, through no real fault of their own. And sometimes a classroom has to be stopped or basically cleared. Sometimes I know firsthand that there are sometimes students that get injured, or the teacher gets injured. And this has even happened up in the Bay Area where my niece goes to school. So how do you view that? And do you feel that there should be somebody with that special needs child throughout the day?
Well, I'm sorry that has happened. We hope that never happens, but we put a lot of effort into the planning and placement of our special education students. And we have great teachers, we have administrators at those schools who understand the needs of those students. But really, the biggest problem is that is the funding. We were told by the federal government that they would reimburse us up to 40% of what our special education costs were. And this was over 40 years ago. And over those 40 years, we've never averaged more than 15%. So that means tens of millions of dollars each year. And so that loss of funding over those 40 years has made a critical impact and a bad impact on our ability to give the services that we want. So, you know, we have Esperanza Special Education School, which is a separate, and then we have SDC classes, and we have classes within the schools. So we have both types of schools classes. But the SDC classes, we try to have someone, usually there'll be an 8 or 2 in there, but we just don't have the money, the funding to do all the things we want to do, and it's a shame.
All right, and I don't want to imply that it's all special needs kids. That term really runs the gamut. I'm talking about every once in a while you have somebody
Absolutely,
who has a
sure.
severe disability and becomes disruptive. For the majority, that's
and
not
that
the
happens.
case at all.
But you
Yeah.
can't always plan for the worst.
Right,
You know.
right.
But we certainly don't want that to happen.
This year in the district, they have implemented in elementary school standards-based grades. And this is something that if some people are not aware of, it's a change from letter grades. It's more of a numeric system, but it's not as though that if a child gets a 3, it transfers to a B.
Right.
Why, on the onset, this may be a very good thing, and a lot of people are very positive about this. This was brought on very quickly, and as I've mentioned before, a lot of the teachers really found out about this or was implemented a week before, for some of them, back to school night. So they were kind of like, you know, where do we go from here?
Right.
It's not so much they were against it, like,
Right.
there wasn't much information or training involved. How do you see the standards-based grades, and was it implemented correctly? Should it then be brought in eventually to the intermediate and high school levels?
Well, bringing it to the higher levels creates a problem in that the higher education institutes are looking at GPAs as one of their criteria. So we'd have to figure out how that would work with the colleges and universities and the community colleges. But as far as the rollout, we had teachers starting, we had a summer committee of teachers starting 5 years ago to work on this. And each summer they met and worked toward bringing a new piece into that. And this summer, they had the intention of adding another piece to it. But because of feedback from teachers and the principals, they decided that they were tired of these little implementations and it was time to just do the full rollout. So they spent a week planning the whole thing.
Right.
What needed to be done and how to do it and how it was going to be rolled out. And so after that, we presented that at Staff Development Day in the summer. And then on August 31st, we provided them with a slide presentation and a rubrics describer that would help them to describe that during back to school night if they wanted to use that to describe back to school night. And then on August 31st, we also sent emails out to all the parents in English and Spanish as to what was going on. So I think our teachers did a great deal, a great job to get it out to everybody. And I don't think we really put it out too fast.
Okay.
So I was very happy. I think our teachers and staff did a great job to get it rolled out there. And there's always going to be some people who would like more time.
Right,
but overall, I think our staff and teachers did a great job, and so I'm satisfied with the job.
All right. And overall, from what I hear, that in the long run, people are going to be very pleased with it.
You know, people don't necessarily like change or feel comfortable with change, but sometimes you have to rip the Band-Aid off instead of just pulling it off slowly. So.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Within the district, over the last couple of years, they've implemented some of their magnet schools, and this involves dual immersion, like at Gates, and international baccalaureate at Linda Vista. And there's also the STEAM school up in, is that Santiago?
Santiago, yes.
And then also there's been a lot of talk about charter schools as well. So what's your take on both the magnet schools and the charter schools?
Well, the magnet schools are great. They give parents another choice to have how they want their kids educated. We also have our online academy, which is great for people who can't necessarily go to school. Maybe they travel, they could be an athlete or an artist or something. So we're trying to provide opportunities for kids that work for them.
Right.
So right now, we're going to try to make sure that those things succeed. We have the International Baccalaureate program at the high schools, but we don't have it in the intermediate schools. We have to get that into the intermediate schools. But other than that, right now we don't have any specific plans for other magnets, but if things come up, we'll certainly keep that in our mind. As far as charter schools are concerned, I have a concern with those because charter schools were primarily set up, I think, because schools were failing in certain areas.
Right.
And parents didn't have a choice. They had to go to this school in that school district, and they didn't really have a choice. So charter schools came up, and they're public schools. They use public money. They may or may not be a nonprofit. Some of them are for-profit schools. So I don't feel that great that money is going, education money is going to somebody's profits. But in Orange County and our district, I don't know that we have failing schools. And so we've got to compete with the charter schools for students. If a class, if a school opens up and they take 60 of our students, that's 60 kids that we don't get funding for.
That's correct, yes.
And it's not 2 classes of 3rd graders. It is 60 kids throughout the school.
Yeah.
So we can't have less teachers. We can't reduce our expenses. And we're not going to get any, so we'll get less money.
Yeah.
So it hurts.
Yeah, the money follows
and again,
the student.
I don't think we have failing schools here. So, and they don't necessarily have to follow the same rules as we have. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And they're not my favorite thing.
All right. And you know, one thing about the district that is very good, it does allow parents to transfer kids to different schools that they may feel are better for them. And for the most part, if there's space available, it's pretty easy, and that's a good thing.
We've really expanded school choice.
Yeah, school choice is
It used to be we'd try to swap one for another, but now we try to give the parents the choice.
All right, Dennis, thank you very much. We're out of time.
Okay.
I want to remind people that, of course, a lot of you folks have your mail-in ballots, and the election is on November 6th. So it's great to have the different folks on from the district and also just in general to have the candidates on to get to know you. Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you very much for having me on.
You take care.
Okay.
We'll be right back.